it's Jack, and this video is called What is the Most Important Sexual Position to a Man? Hey, my name's Jack Butler, I'm a relationship coach, and I release at least 2 new videos each week on relationships and personal growth. So if you're new here or you haven't yet subscribed, come on, let's do this. Subscribe, hit that button, and then tap the bell notification so you hear of new videos as soon as they come out. All right, let's get into this. So this is a little different take than what you might have been expecting for a video of this title, because I think that the most important sexual position to a guy is nothing to do with an actual physical position that you guys might find when you're being sexual. It's actually to do with the space in which desire arises for most men. And the space in which desire arises for most men is actually when they have a feeling of space and freedom. Right? Think about it. If you spend a lot of time with a guy, right, then you're on the more familiar, connected side of being in a relationship. At a certain point, that familiarity will often start to compromise on his feeling of freedom and his feeling of having a space from you in which, missing you, in which desire for you can arise. So I think the most important sexual position for a man is actually something like his man cave, right? It's actually that he has in his life a feeling of his own autonomy and his space, and space from the connection in which can arise his desire, his longing, his drive to want to come towards you, right? His drive to want to come towards you, allure you, seduce you, pleasure you. All of that, I think, is more likely when a guy has a feeling like, oh, actually, yeah, there's some space that happens in our connection. What's the opposite of this? The opposite of this is a guy that feels overwhelmed or invaded by the level of connection, by the level of contact. And from that place, he's probably less likely to show up with sexual desire, right? From that place, he's probably more going to be, managing the connection, trying to make things work, trying to meet your needs. And all those things are important, right? Meeting your needs, absolutely important. But if that's happening in the context that he actually isn't stepping enough into his own expression, his own autonomy, his own need for space, his own drive for freedom, which, by the way, this isn't only men, but for most men, their desire for freedom, to be free, is actually more than their desire to love, right? That is kind of in the organizing stack of value. So most guys at the top there is freedom, right? Now, a more mature version of freedom acknowledges that part of our freedom is through our responsibilities, is through our limitations, our constraints, the things that we commit to, right? So in the mature masculine, we don't have the immature view of freedom, which is sort of, I'll do what I want, when I want, how I want, if I want, with whom I want, right? So I'm not talking, freedom outside the bounds of the relationship. I'm just talking that within the relationship, this dynamic, this animating polarity of space and connection, right? And again, this is, attachment style will go into this. Different people have different dynamics, but the classic dynamic in gross orienting generalization is that the guy is going to hold down a bit more on the polarity of space, and the woman might hold down more on the polarity of connection. And of course, we go back and forth. There's all sorts of nuance with this. There's stress, there's seasonality, there's family, there's all sorts of things that can play into this. But if you just understand that when your guy is feeling distant or withdrawn or stressed, that most men in that time are probably going to want to have more space to actually figure things out, to kind of be in their own world, be in their own experience. So if you're able to align with a guy's need for freedom, with the guy's position of getting into his man cave, whatever that looks like, whether that's his study, his office, nature, going out with the lads, whatever is his thing, when he really starts to recharge his other tanks, in order that at some point he's going to come back into more connection with more desire that's coming in your direction, right? Now, that's not about tolerating guys, completely dropping off the map and you don't hear from him for weeks, you have no idea where he is. I'm just saying, if a guy gets a deep level that you understand his need for space and freedom, and he feels that you're an ally in that, and that he's not just fighting you for that, or that there's, he's doing that thing again, and you're kind of rolling your eyes and wishing that he weren't doing it. If you can align with him more, I think you'll actually get more from him sexually and in the relationship overall, right? So it's having the trust that if he's your guy, that when he goes take some space, that he's actually going to come to want to come back into connection. That's where your practice is. That's where your ability to soothe yourself, your ability to stay connected with yourself. Because if he doesn't come back from that, as traumatic and as painful and as everything as that might be, your worst nightmare, you actually have got some important information that he's not your guy. Right? So this is in a way, it's like if you can trust a little bit more, you actually get a better discernment about whether someone's your guy. Do you see how that works? Because if you're always having to keep him close, connected, kind of a little bit leash, so to speak, for fear that you'll lose the connection, you don't ever know if the connection is robust, right? Because it's kind of like you never test it. It's like no conflict relationships. They never know, actually, can we withstand conflict, because we're always avoiding it. And then at some point, they have the ultimate conflict. Someone walks out and doesn't come back. So the deepest fear becomes reality because there's no real way to deal with it. It can be a similar thing. If you're never able to kind of let him out, so to speak, let him have his space, let him have his expression, let him have his guy friends, let him have his other parts of his life, then you never really find out how much does he actually want to be here with me. You know, which is why this takes trust, and it takes often overcoming some of our anxiousness, anxiety that the connection's going to drop. So I'm not saying this is easy to do. It's going to take practice, but it's really worthwhile to do. Because if you actually want, we know this from YouTube videos, right? How to make a man miss you, how to make a man chase you. If you actually want that, not in the superficial, he can do it for a few dates, but if you actually want a guy in your corner, ongoingly committed in a love relationship with you, you've got to understand this piece about space and desire and what arises in that. And as best you can, even if you have to include some of your own vulnerabilities, and even if at times you don't fully like it, see if you can lean into the edge of practice so that your relationship has the space from which his desire for you can be fully ignited. And that will be the best sexual position that you've had from him. All right, I hope this makes sense. Let me know. Questions and comments beneath this video. Please, if you haven't, subscribe to the channel, hit the subscribe button, tap that bell notification so you hear of new videos as soon as they come out. I look forward to having you as part of this community ongoingly. And as always, I'm Jack. Thanks for being here.